Before we get you updated with the latest developments coming in from Kabul, I would like to take a moment to inform all our viewers that we at WION World as One have taken a conscious call to not show you some of the images emerging from the blast site. There are a lot of other images. We believe there should be some dignity in death, which is why we have chosen to not show them on our screens. Now, at least 100 Afghan civilians and 13 US troops have been killed in a suicide bomb attack outside the Kabul airport. Reports suggest that at least 28 people who died in the explosion were Taliban members. The Islamic State Khorasan has taken responsibility for the attack. Disturbing visuals of dead bodies being piled up, injured being taken to the hospital, have been coming in since yesterday from Kabul. The blast comes just days ahead of the August 31st deadline, when the US is supposed to conclude its evacuation operations. The attack marks a deadly escalation of the crisis that has been unfolding before our eyes at the Kabul airport since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. Media reports suggest that the bombers were able to penetrate all security locations and fortifications. At least 2 bombs were detonated. The attack has now fueled the urgency for the foreign troops to airlift as many people out of Afghanistan as they can. People who were waiting to be evacuated outside the airport are in a state of shock. A graphic video shared on social media platforms recently show dead bodies lying in a canal adjacent to the airport. Wounded people in blood-soaked clothes were ferried away in wheelbarrows. These visuals are hard to look at. Survivors desperately shouted for help as they tried to look for their loved ones. Just yesterday, many Afghans were seen standing knee-deep in sewage water, waiting for their turn to enter the airport. After a few hours of the attack, crowds began to gather as the deadline to complete the evacuation is now closing in. And that deadline is, of course, August 31st. WION's correspondent Anas Malik, who has been relentlessly reporting from the Hamid Karzai International Airport for us, has sent us more information on the series of events in Afghanistan. There were 7 explosions last night. 2 of them took place near the Kabul airport where troops were deployed. The US has said that both the blasts were suicide bombings carried out by the Islamic State. However, the Islamic State has said that one suicide bomber had targeted the Abbey Gate, which was controlled solely by the US soldiers, and rest of the explosions are presumed to have been carried out by the US forces. In recent years, the Islamic State has launched various terror attacks. The outfit has massacred civilians at mosques, shrines and even hospitals. The Islamic State's Khorasan outfit or chapter and the Taliban are both hardline Sunni terrorists. The group has especially targeted Muslims from other sects, including Shia. For more about the developments in Kabul in Afghanistan, joining us now is our correspondent Anas Malik, who has been reporting for us from Afghanistan, from Kabul for the last few weeks. Anas, you are standing right outside the hospital where some of those injured due to the explosions are admitted currently. What can you tell us about their condition and about the casualties so far?
Absolutely, Priyanka, you rightly mentioned I'm standing outside the emergency surgical center for war victims, which is the first responsive hospital where the injuries of yesterday's blast were brought in. We saw those visuals coming in from different sources, how ambulances were being rushed into this very complex, in this very compound. 103 people are now confirmed dead in these twin suicide attacks, 13 of them being US Marines US servicemen rather, some of them that include US Marines as well. More than 160 people are currently injured. This 103, the total of 103 is expected to rise because there are some critical people who are there, who are in this hospital, who are in the Wazir Akbar Khan hospital where I was earlier today and we ran that report, and another hospital of Kabul. So 3 hospitals have been dealing with, but emergency hospital is the first responder hospital, which is free of cost as well, and we've seen that scores of people have been coming in. Today was a grim day here at this very hospital. I was inside the Mogri and we saw gut-wrenching scenes, families after families coming and identifying their loved ones, identifying their own families, 1 or 2 individuals left, and they're identifying 5 or 6 bodies, about 5 or 6 dead bodies of their loved ones who they had met just some days back, who were outside the Abbey Gate and the Baron Hotel Gate in desperation that they would be able to flee. So 103 people have been killed in these twin suicide attacks, whereas 160 are injured. The death toll is expected to rise. Priyanka?
Right, Anas, as we know, the ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for this attack, and the US President Joe Biden has promised retribution or revenge against the perpetrators of this attack. How is this news being received in Afghanistan? What is the security situation in Kabul as of now? Is the capital on high alert? What is the security? Has the security arrangement been beefed up since yesterday?
Well, there is no precise high alert that has been issued because there is no functional setup that has been in place at least for the past 13 days or 14 days here in Kabul. But yes, there is a threat, there is a sense of threat and insecurity that has been raised, and the security measures too have been beefed. We've seen the Taliban men patrol on the vehicles that they have overrun of the Afghan army and Afghan police. The patrols have increased. They're wearing sophisticated gear. The city is clearly mourning. Where I'm standing in Sherino, it's usually packed. It's a hustling, bustling area. It's a city center. But I've been around the city today, and the city has been generally in the mourning mode, primarily because of these twin suicide bombings. In fact, around the airport as well, just one place where I saw crowds that were gathered in numbers, except that the other three gates that I visited, we were not allowed to stand there, but a short glimpse, a short sneak peek, we've seen that people have generally gone back. So yes, the security has been beefed up. There is an imminent threat. In fact, as latest as the Zuhar, the Friday prayers, we saw a foreign intelligence threat coming in to Western journalists here in Kabul, and they said that they claimed that their information was that at least 7 suicide bombers are on the loose that had left from a mosque in central Kabul, and they were likely to target installations which has foreigners, which can be hotels as well, or embassies and the airport. In fact, Western journalists were particularly asked by this foreign intelligence to stay away from the airport premise because of this threat assessment that was issued just hours back. Priyanka?
Anas, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thank you for joining us from Kabul. Please stay safe. Now, as Afghans mourn the dual airport blast, the Taliban have ramped up security around the airport premises. They have blocked roads, begun thorough checks, and even increased the number of checkpoints in the capital. Our correspondent Anas Malik was stopped from going to the blast site earlier today. Here is his ground report.
I'm standing at the road that leads to the Kabul airport. Behind me is the road that leads to the Kabul airport, which has now been closed by the Afghan Taliban. If I can show you as well. You see those flags? Those flags are where people have been asked to turn around, and you can see probably that cars are actually turning around as well. We've seen throughout the day that the city is in a mourning mode, and you won't see much traffic around as well. These roads would usually be on a normal day be clogged with bumper to bumper traffic, but following the aftermath of yesterday's bombings and then subsequent explosions as well, we saw that today the city is wearing a deserted look. You won't see traffic jams as such, minus a couple of places that is very near to the blast site or near to the hospitals. Increased checkpoints are there, increased security measures by the Taliban are there. They're trying to check cars at important stations near to the Afghan presidential palace, near to the hospital, and very near to the airport as well. Nobody is being allowed to be near to the airport. The place where we were yesterday, very near to the blast site. We were not allowed to go there today. There is a sense of uncertainty because there are increasing speculations that there can possibly be more suicide attacks or bombers or attackers that can possibly inflict damage on human life. The reason we're seeing this agitated men or agitated fighters from the Taliban, those foot soldiers who are preventing anybody and everybody to get even near to them. Anas Malik in Kabul, Afghanistan for WION World is One.
WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.